Hello and welcome back to Nurturing Your Infant and Yourself, our 6-week online virtual group sponsored by Triumph Inc. Community Programming. Again, I'm Carrie. I'm happy you're here with me again today. For today's topic, we are going to be discussing bonding and attachment. So thanks again for tuning in, and let's get started. Mom, you're not listening. Despite my seeming presence, I've been caught with my mind elsewhere. I'm pulled back, only to wander off into creative mental explorations or into obsessive, mostly irrelevant thoughts about future details. When a child walks in, can we take a moment and really see her and acknowledge her presence? We do that with acquaintances, but we don't often do it with the closest people to us. The quality of our presence with our children is central to the quality of our relationship with them. As we have seen, presence lies at the heart of mindfulness. To cultivate it requires conscious, sustained effort, attention, a willingness to be authentic, awake, and attuned. When we are authentic with someone, we are being genuine. We are not hiding or pretending. We don't discriminate against certain feelings in ourselves or in our children. But if we've grown up having to hide our feelings or dissimulate in order to feel safe, being authentic can be extremely scary and difficult. It may be new and unknown territory. It helps to keep reminding ourselves, literally, to come back to our mind and to our senses. We remind ourselves to come back into the present moment, to be aware of how we are feeling. The breath can be our ally in this. Intentionally focusing on the sensations of breathing brings us back into the body. The more we are aware of how we are really feeling in each moment, without judging ourselves, the more we embody authentic presence. The more we live in this way, the more our children will feel it, know it, and embody authentic presence themselves. That was an excerpt from the book Everyday Blessings, a book on mindful parenting by John and Mila Kabat-Zinn. So this idea of presence is essential to our bonding and attachment during these early phases of baby's life. Being present means not being stuck in thoughts about the past and not being kind of trapped by thoughts about the future. We're in that place right in between. I like to consider it, this is before, and this is not yet. And this is where we are here, right in the center. We're here now. And so, as we start to discuss attachment, presence is going to keep coming up with how well we can be present with another human being and be present with ourselves. So that means getting to know another and getting to know yourself at really deep levels, which can be really vulnerable and scary, like the reading mentioned. So attachment is a process. Robert Curran wrote in 1990 an article called Becoming Attached in Atlantic Monthly about the experiences which enable mothers and infants to bond and thrive with one another and develop strong psycho-emotional attachments to one another as well. This theory of attachment parenting has now been well researched, and there are numerous studies showing how to use and apply this theory to parent-infant relationships. Babies and parents experience brain shifts and the formation of neural pathways which inform their responses to one another. Now, if you have access to Netflix, if you have a family member that has a subscription, that's what I do. I use somebody else's subscription. But there is a really great little mini-series called Babies, and they have an incredible episode, or I think it's one of the 4 episodes in the small series, about an hour long, about this attachment and how babies and mothers and fathers truly have physiological changes once baby comes earthside, once they're born. It's a really interesting documentary. I would highly recommend it. There's other topics, including feeding and crawling. It's just a really in-depth series, really well done. So this strengthening and formation of neural pathways is especially true during the third trimester of mom's pregnancy and the first 2 years of baby's life. This is true to enough of an extent that they are now seeing impacts in adults' mental functionings correlated with emotions and moods during the initial bonding period. So the basics are attachment happens over time. It may happen quickly with some mothers and fathers and some babies. It may happen more or less fast with a different baby for the same mother or father. It is a process of making acquaintance of this baby and this parent. So even if you've had another child and they're older and you're welcoming in a new infant right now, your bonding process and your relationship is going to be different. So that's important for you to note, to kind of release any expectations or that kind of mental state of I already know. Of course, you're going to know so much about caring for a baby, but this baby's personality could be completely different than your first child. So just giving yourself time to get acquainted and get to know your baby in this way. Another important note that I wanted to touch upon is that, again, this is a process. And so you may have friends that are also new parents that are just completely over the moon in love, they're happy, they're doing really well at home, and you might be struggling. You might be having a harder time. You might feel like your baby isn't bonding with you, or you're not bonding with your baby for any reason, and you might not feel that immediate connection, and that's okay, right? Our culture is kind of pushes this in our face that we're supposed to feel all of these really positive feelings right away, right after we've gone through this tremendous life change, and that truly doesn't happen for everyone. So give yourself some time, give yourself space to find this transition in your life as something new, rather than something that you are supposed to be feeling a certain way, or you're supposed to know what you're supposed to be doing with your baby during this time, right? Again, like I said in our first video, this is it's a brand new time, so give yourself that space and forgive yourself for not knowing what you will know soon in the future. So some more basics about attachment and bonding. Mothers in particular, but fathers too, attach to an imagined baby during pregnancy, right? So during your pregnancy, if you're a mom watching this, you may have kind of envisioned what your life is going to be like with this new baby and what he or she is going to be like. So the process after birth includes letting go of that idea of the baby and attaching to the actual baby that's right in front of you. It may seem silly, it may seem obvious, but we do these things really subconsciously, and we might not even realize that we've kind of created this relationship with an infant that we hoped he or she would be, and in reality, they are a really different person. They have a different personality. So the process after birth includes letting go of that idea, right? And developing a relationship to your baby. This is a period of disequilibrium for a parent, even for a second infant or for every infant. So this again is a space where we find ourselves kind of trapped by the workings of our mind. Again, past, present, future, right? When you're in pregnancy, you're imagining, you're using your imagination, maybe in a positive way. However, present moment awareness tells us, again, whatever is here and present is real. So we are constantly moving between thinking about the past and thinking about the future. And we're always longing for something different, right? Think of a few examples. It's like, okay, when you finally have got to do what you wanted to do, you might wish that you were somewhere else, or wish that you had more time, or wish that the time was over. Or if you've ever gotten something new, like a new car, a new kitchen appliance, a new outfit, right? It's like those moments where it's new to you, it's really novel and exciting, but then over time, that feeling wears off. And that's just kind of what our brain is always wanting to seek, something new. Right? Our functions of desire are always seeking and wanting more. And that's where practices of being present and slowing down and just realizing that a lot of the thoughts in our mind kind of zip on by. Imagine like a ping pong machine, right? That ball is just like pew, 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 it's all over. And that's kind of how our thoughts move in our mind. And so when we kind of step back and observe what's happening in our brain and realize that that's not who we are, right? That's not who you are, your thoughts. We are so much deeper than that. We're even deeper than our experiences that we've had in our life, right? Our experiences have shaped who we are today to a certain extent. However, when we even get too attached to our experiences and kind of let them run our life based on what we've been through, again, that's not who we are, right? We are all destined for happiness and health and love. And so when we're in these discontented states, we have to kind of just take a step back, realize we're humans, we have feelings and emotions that we move through and that they constantly change. But our thoughts inside of our brain and all of these desires and all of these judgments and opinions are not who we are. I hope that makes sense. Because when you step back and you kind of come to a more quiet space, it's not uncommon to have really strange thoughts, and maybe thoughts that you might have never had before. You might even label them as dark thoughts or intrusive thoughts. And so that's just, again, part of how our brain works. It kind of brings stuff up, especially during more quiet times. So that's our job. When we see those thoughts, we take a step back, say, it's really interesting, and kind of try to come more from a place of curiosity rather than a place of judgment or fear, right? Because judgment and fear just kind of feed into more judgment and more fear. So again, this present moment awareness helps us to kind of shed all of those layers of thought and allows you to come to a place of greater acceptance rather than wanting things to be different or thinking that they're supposed to be different, right? That's one of our main causes of suffering, is always thinking that things are supposed to be a different way than they are, and wanting things to be a different way than they are. If you've ever heard the quote, accept what you cannot change and change what you can. So we have so much of our life in our control, but then there is so much in our lives that are not in our control. Again, this global situation that we're dealing with is one of those examples of something that is just completely out of our control. And so while I'm kind of on that topic, and one of those thoughts just popped into my mind, in thinking about this time bonding and getting to know your baby as he or she gets to know you too, it's a great time to turn off the news, right? To allow the noise of the world to quiet down while you are adjusting to your new life. And so when I give people that advice, they think, well, how am I going to know what's going on? And I promise you that you don't have to be the first one to read the headlines. If something imminent or really significant is happening in the world, you're going to find out, and you'll find out through your family or your friends. But allowing yourself more time away from the news and from social media will be really helpful to strengthen your relationship with your baby. And even during the times where your new infant is sleeping, which they will be a lot, I'm sure. Not when you're sleeping though. Allow yourself that time and self-care, and rather than going right to social media or again the news, what else could you do? Could you draw a nice warm foot soak for yourself? All you need is a bowl and some hot water, and it can feel really good just to relax your feet. Can you light a candle or have something that smells really nice, right? Use your senses, your 5 senses. Look at beautiful pictures or go through an old photo album. Listen to good music and move your body and dance. You can meditate, right? Eating really yummy foods. All of these things that use our 5 senses, we also want to be incorporating into our time with our baby and starting to observe how he or she is experiencing the world with their 5 senses. So what is it like when you tickle their little feet? Do they kind of get chills all over? Do they like it when you make certain sounds or noises? Do they like when you kiss their neck and their cheeks? You know, you're just figuring out how they experience the world and how you can best support them and bring them comfort and love in that way. So let's see, a few more basics of attachment and bonding. So after the birth of a first baby, the mothers in particular, but the fathers too, definition of self undergoes a redefinition. So again, this is a time where you were not a mother and now you are. And so you might be asking yourself, what does this mean? Or you were not a father and now you are. And so there's a lot of self-reflection. And so you might even be imagining the people in your life who raised you, your parents or caregivers or grandparents, or you have mentors like teachers or coaches. And so you think about those people that had a positive influence on your life. And you, of course, naturally would even think about people who had a negative influence on your life. And kind of consider how this shaped the person that you are today. And so the thing about shapes is, though, we're all a different shape, a different size, a different color. One is not more right than the other. And a lot of shapes can shift and change. And that's the same way that we change over time based on our decisions and our choices. Again, that goes back to the thoughts that we're having are not who we are, and the experiences that we've had in our life have shaped us, but do not have to define you completely and fully. So some other factors, dimensions impacting the parent-child attachment include the kind of pregnancy that mom had. If it was a really difficult pregnancy, mom will have to kind of reconstitute herself before attachment, so kind of allowing yourself to go through that period of healing, whether you're talking to your doctor or a professional therapist or counselor or your friends or your mother, right? Whoever you feel comfortable in talking with about your pregnancy, especially if it was challenging, right? So the kind of delivery is also impactful. If it was difficult, mom will also have to go through that period of healing before attaching. The condition of your baby, of course, if he or she is less responsive to touch or nursing, you may feel rejected. And so that is a real emotion that you're experiencing, but it's something that we, again, in that present moment awareness, okay, what's going on here? How can I support my baby? And take a step back and know that this baby is yours, and he or she loves you and has this connection to you no matter what. And so during these first few weeks or months where baby's having a hard time, it is natural to feel that way and to feel rejected, but know that you're doing everything that you can, and you are perfectly enough, and you're a perfectly capable parent to take care of your baby. The early period problems in eating and settling. So if baby is colicky, mom or dad may feel like there is nothing that they can do, and you might need to have help in coping with those feelings. Again, getting the internet, especially during this time, could be a really great place to connect with other parents about issues like that, about colic, about what's the word I'm looking for? When I worked in early intervention, a lot of infants had a hard time with acid reflux and spitting up a lot. So that was a really stressful time when, feeding, again, in our minds is this period of bonding and connection and a really nourishing time. But if it's connected to baby spitting up milk and being discomforted by feeding, then that's not a positive experience. And again, we get into our heads about this should be this way and this should be that way. Unfortunately, sometimes we just have to go through those tough periods to learn more about each other. So it is really challenging, but there's a lot of support out there from other parents. And again, whoever's on your team, always reach out to them. You are absolutely not in this alone in any way. And so let's see, finally, if the baby has issues of temperament or perceived temperament issues in the family, for example, feisty, can be perceived by one family member as strong and assertive, and by another family member as problematic. So this brings up the concept of goodness of fit of a child's temperament within the family's expectations. So there's those expectations again, the assumptions of how things are supposed to be or the way that we want them to be. So how can we let go and come more to a place of acceptance for what is, again, with support from other people. So the most important thing, again, to remember is that attachment is a process. Mothers and fathers need to start becoming more comfortable with being in that process. Again, that's a space where we're all vulnerable, where we really wish we had the skills already. But there's no valid instruments to measure attachment in the first 2 months because it's still in flux. And your baby's changing every single day, just as you are. So some things to know about attachment as we begin wrapping up here. It does not require any special products or organization. Psychological attachment does not require constant physical contact. There is a theory called, in parenting, called attachment parenting. That is not valid, which expects constant physical contact. It may even slow down appropriate attachment as the mother becomes resentful or frantic for private time. So again, this is your choice. If you want to walk around with a wrap with your baby all day long, and that's something that the two of you seem to enjoy, that's wonderful. But if you're the type of person or the type of mother or father that just needs a little bit more time for yourself, that's perfectly acceptable too, and you need to listen to those calls because by filling up your cup, you're able to allow, or you're able to give more of yourself when you're needed, right? Rather than pouring from an empty vessel. So a few, let's see, I'm going to post a little graphic so you can kind of see the summary, but a few activities that I would recommend during this phase of getting to know your infant is something that I call baby gazing. It's not a term that I've coined by any means, but baby gazing is essentially what it sounds like. So allowing your baby, this could happen during your routines though too. You don't have to be like, okay, it's 2 o'clock, it's time for baby gazing. This can happen during a diaper change or during a bath. But letting yourself make nice, soft eye contact with your baby. And then allow your eyes to just kind of take in him or her as a whole. And so this could feel uncomfortable for you if you've never done this before. It definitely gets a lot of giggles when we do this in certain trainings or groups with two adults, and we're just kind of gazing into each other's eyes. But with your baby, hopefully there's a greater level of comfort and a greater level of knowing as you can kind of start to sync your energy to your baby's, right? So it's as simple as allowing your eyes to rest on your baby, mimicking sounds that he or she is making, and just responding in a way that seems right to you and to your baby. We talked about the 5 sense awareness practices for you while you're alone, while you're doing your self-care stuff, you're doing things around the house. Practice using your 5 senses, right? Even something as simple as when you're washing the dishes, and just like allowing yourself to smell the soap and to feel the warm water, rather than letting that to-do list just kind of keep going in your mind, or on the opposite end, thinking of the past and rehashing things that have already happened. It's like, okay, when we realize we're in those states, bring yourself back to the moment, take a deep breath. What's happening around me now? What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I feel? And maybe even what can I taste? Belly to belly tummy time is an excellent way to connect with your baby. So while baby may not like tummy time on the floor, as they start to get stronger, they might experience a more pleasurable tummy time if they are on your tummy. So you would be lying flat on a bed, a couch, or the floor. You can prop up a pillow behind your head so that your chin is elevated and you can see your baby looking forward. And having a nice firm and gentle hold of your baby so they're not falling off of your body. But allowing this time to be a time where you're singing together, you're talking, you're again making good eye contact. And so while you're strengthening your relationship with your baby, they are strengthening all of those muscles in their back and their neck, everywhere else in their body too. They're just getting stronger and stronger, excuse me, by moving into greater lengths of tummy time. And again, being on your belly could be more pleasurable for them. Music and books, right? So we just talked about music. You can be singing songs to your baby, but the more you narrate your day, right, the more language that they're hearing. And so the same thing with music and with books, right? Maybe you in particular don't have much to say that day. So maybe you call upon a few nice books and read them to your baby. Again, there might be that part of your mind thinking, well, they're a baby, they don't understand what's going on, they don't understand the pictures. But that is kind of a moot point, because this time in connection with them, they're listening to every word that you're saying, and they're attuning to you and your energy during those times. So bring in the music, bring in the books, have a fun time together, getting to know each other. So I think that is all I wanted to discuss today about bonding and attachment. Again, thinking about being in a process and trying not to get too ahead of yourself or too down on yourself or too anything, and just kind of be. It's a really challenging time for the whole world, and this is also a time where you can choose to give yourself more space, less doing, more being, right? Our to-do lists only ever get longer, and there's always going to be something to do. And so if we just let ourselves surrender and accept what's happening now, in the moment, in our home, in our families, the more that we're moving towards just a greater health and wellness for everyone around us, right? Again, as parents, it's important to remember filling up your cup is essential so that you can pour into others. And so that's going to be different for everyone. And so again, today we're going to close with a mindfulness strategy. And it's the one that we've already talked about today, but we're actually going to practice it now. So if you have 3 more minutes, we can end this session today with the 5 senses exercise. Okay, so bring yourself into a seated position. I'm sure you might already be there, but letting yourself kind of sit up with more intention rather than slouching in a chair or the couch. And let yourself kind of just readjust and position in a way that you can relax your shoulders down away from your ears. And again, maybe stretch through your neck a little bit. Good. So let's start with our first sense, feeling. And so just notice how your feet feel on the floor, or maybe how they feel in socks or shoes if you have them on. Right? We can simply notice and feel that we either have socks or shoes on or we don't in our feet. Right? Simple. Feeling the rest of your body. Maybe your back's against a chair or your thighs are pressing on the bottom of the chair. Feeling the temperature in the room, or maybe there's a breeze. And then feel yourself take an inhale. Release your exhale. Do that one more time. Feel this breath. And now moving on to our sense of sound and what we can hear. So when I'm listening during this type of exercise, I like to close my eyes. Maybe you can hear a clock ticking or your neighbors. Maybe somebody has a television on or cars moving by. And all we're doing is listening for sound and becoming aware that when we hear something, it might jet us back into a memory or jog our memory into thinking about something that we have to do. And again, that's just how our brain works. It's not who we are. And what we're doing right now is just listening for sounds. Maybe there's a bird chirping. Noticing how the sounds change moment to moment. Now opening your eyes back up, we'll move into our sense of sight. So with your eyes open, just start to gaze around the space that you're sitting in. And this again is great to do with baby. You can gaze at him or her. And just kind of look around. And again, your to-do list might kick off in your head, oh, I really should clean that corner of the ceiling. Okay, I noticed that, sure. But what else can I see? What other colors can I feast my eyes on? Maybe the way that the light is coming through the window. Just really simple things that you can observe. Now our sense of smell, that is not always on our side, the same way our sense of hearing and sight is too. We can't help certain things that are right there in front of us that we have to experience, whether we like them or not. So taking a big breath into your nose and noticing if there's any scent. You might come accustomed to the smell of your own house, as most people do, but maybe you're cooking something delicious, or you have a candle going, or a bubble bath. Okay. Smelling your baby is one of parents' favorites pastime. That new little life, just breathing that fresh scent in. Okay. And so finally, something I can't quite demonstrate right now is the sense of taste. So how many times are we eating food and we're just kind of bite by bite, just shoveling it in and not really tasting what we're eating, or even looking at what we're eating before it goes into our mouth? So the next time you take a bite of anything, let yourself kind of pause and savor it, noticing the texture in your mouth, the taste. Sometimes we eat things that we don't even really like. So let yourself slow down in that aspect. Right? Using your five senses to bring yourself more into the present moment and more available to strengthen your relationship and your attachment to your baby. Closing again today with 3 deep breaths in and out of your nose. Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was another helpful session for you, and I look forward to meeting with you again next Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.